We're here to talk about Silicon Valley real estate market and then the greater Bay Area, which comprises of 13 counties and 5 different regions. I'm Richard Calhoun, Creekside Realty, and contact information is on the bottom of every slide. These are the slides we're going to be going over in the next 35, 40 minutes. We're going to start off talking about micro market areas within Silicon Valley. Then we're going to talk about Silicon Valley as a whole, as if it was in a blender. Then we're going to come back and talk about Silicon Valley as compared to the 10-year history. Then we'll look at each of the 3 counties, which are Alameda County, Santa Clara County, and San Mateo. And then we'll look at the greater Bay Area, which is the 5 regions. We're going to be talking about Silicon Valley. It's mostly focused on Silicon Valley with a little bit at the end on the 5 regions of the greater Northern California Bay Area. Here's a summary of the data we're going to see. It's going to start off with the heat maps. Here's the first heat map. What we're doing here is simply looking at the active inventory in each of the different micro market areas compared to their 10-year median. For example, South County is basically 60% of its 10-year median. For Alameda County, I don't have the micro market data. I did Alameda County as a whole, so all 7 of these micro market areas are being treated as one area, so they're all at 71%, and that's why the color is all the same. I thought that was better as an interim step than not having any data from that at all. So basically what you can do is see there's a shortage of inventory almost everywhere except in San Mateo County. San Mateo County is clearly acting differently than Santa Clara County and Alameda County. Here's the same concept, but on the other side of the equation, the number of offers that have been accepted. And here you can also see that we're way down. In fact, San Mateo County Coast is only seeing 30% of their offers that they typically see at this time of the year, based on 10 years of history. So that's a pretty long comparison. And basically a lack of offers favors the buyer, which is why this slide is blue in color. The previous slide, lack of listings favors the seller, and that's why it was red in color for a red hot market. Buyers tends to be a nice cold marketplace. Now what we're doing is looking at the ratio between the two. And DUI is the rate of the sales of the property. How quickly are you turning it over? The lower the number, the faster the marketplace is. So in San Mateo County, where you're basically all above 100%, it's blue in color in most of the micro market areas. Redwood City is the one exception because it's close enough to 100 to call it a balanced marketplace. So in San Mateo County, the buyer is favored. I mean, it's a completely different market. You come down here into Silicon Valley and you can see the numbers are in the high 80s, low 90s, right around 100%, much closer to 100. South County is actually going quicker than it typically is. Alameda County at 105% is basically right where you'd expect it to be, which is why there's no color in Alameda County, even though the data is there. And I don't repeat the 104, it just made my math easier. I'll probably put the 104 on each area because that continues down. And again, it's county-wide data for Alameda County. Now, instead of comparing it to the 10-year median, we're looking at just the raw count. And you can do that for days on sold inventory because it's the ratio between supply and demand in each micro market area. And therefore, the size of the micro market area doesn't apply. That's why I had to do the comparison for looking at the number of active listings and offers. Some areas are larger, some areas are smaller. There's no way to, compare the different numbers if you're not comparing it to their own respective number. And that's why I did the 10-year median. Now, this is the number of days on the marketplace. So this might be simpler for people that don't like statistics, maybe. How long is it taking the long typical seller to sell their property in days? Long typical seller is defined as 75% of the sellers have sold before the long typical seller. So that's the fastest of the last quadrant. And basically, you can see these are somewhere around 2 to 3 weeks in Santa Clara County and Alameda County. In San Mateo County, you're approaching 4 weeks. Again, you can see the difference. You can see that Alameda County and Santa Clara County are basically shades of pink. Most of San Mateo County is just plain colors. Foster City is sort of the major exception, but that's a very small micro market area. I almost shouldn't have it on there, but it's an area that a fair number of people are interested in because they don't want to commute across the bridge. Here's looking at the average ask price reduction done by the seller. This is before they get their offer in, and the huge advantage of this particular data set is you get to see what the sellers are experiencing without needing to wait to see what their sale price is. How much are the sellers reducing their price before that offer comes in? And because sellers do a lot of homework before they put their house on the market, this is what I call a tight metric. In other words, from a 0.25% price reduction. So if you're at $1 million, that's, if I'm doing my math right, $2,500, almost an insignificant price reduction, to above by 0.1%. Balanced marketplaces from a 0.25% reduction to 0.75% reduction, and the whole cold market is only from 0.75% reduction to 2% reduction. These are just arbitrary percentages. I will grant that. It's a fairly new metric for me. I will change it. I don't know of anybody else that follows it. The reason it's so tight, with 75% of the sellers probably never taking a price reduction, most of the average is going to be weighted in right at 100%. But you can see South County, despite being a fast marketplace, they're taking more price reductions. The San Mateo County coast, which was a slow marketplace at only 33% of the volume you'd expect, I think, if I remember my number, they're taking 6% price reductions before the offer comes in, and then they're taking price reductions on the offer price. This is how frequent price reductions are. So even though the coast is taking huge price reductions, in my opinion, 5% is huge, only 1 out of 4 sellers is taking any sort of price reduction. You can see how high these numbers or how low these numbers are, indicating how many sellers aren't taking price reductions, which again is why the number is so tight. South County sort of stands out at the most with 29%, just over 25% of the sellers taking any amount of a price reduction before they get their offer in. This is looking at the overbid. So now we're looking over and seeing what the buyer's doing. And these numbers are coming down, but they're still respectable. In Santa Clara County, you're probably right around 6-7% overbid. And that includes the few people that are lucky and get a price reduction. The median overbid for those that are overbidding is going to be slightly higher than these numbers. You go into San Mateo County and the numbers are much lower. You go into Alameda County and the number is sort of similar to Santa Clara County. And that's sort of the takeaway that I would see is Santa Clara County and Alameda County seem to be benefiting from the leftover remnants of the pandemic, and San Mateo County really seems to be hurting. And that's basically people fleeing the job centers, figuring that even though a lot of places are requiring them to come back to work, they have more flex hours. They can go in later, they can leave later, they can leave earlier and come in earlier. They can only have to go in a couple days a week, those kinds of things. The more long distance commutes are becoming more palatable because you're not doing it 5 days a week anymore. This is the frequency of overbid. Even though the magnitude has come down, 3/4 of the offers are still going in over asking price in Santa Clara County. In San Mateo County, it's probably closer to 45% of the offers are going in over asking price. And you jump back into Alameda County and it's back up to 75%. So I think in rough numbers, you're seeing the similarity between Santa Clara County and Alameda County. This is the appreciation over the last 9 months of 2015. So that's my base, basically April 1st through December 31st of 2015. Whatever the median price was for each of the different micro market areas is my base. And then I compare the price now to that. You can see East San Jose, the affordable areas in Santa Clara County, is up 87%, almost doubling. The affordable areas in Alameda County are up 90%. That's the highest numbers. San Mateo County is only down around 35, 70, 45% for the most part. And you can sort of see, I go through a progression, and it's the expensive areas of Santa Clara County up through the San Mateo County coast that is blue in color. And basically the more affordable areas in Santa Clara County and Alameda County are red in color. It's really showing the demarcation of where the appreciation has been happening. Now, just because you have rapid or slow appreciation in a given area in the past doesn't mean that will continue. Also, I'll point out Atherton, the expensive areas in San Mateo County, that was at 160% of the appreciation just a while ago, and it was by far the highest appreciation. 60%, or actually it was more, maybe even 90%, because it was the highest, I believe. And now it's down at 75%. And I was commenting at the time that I think it was just the price ranges of the homes that happen to be selling now that was causing the rapid appreciation. I would expect this number will continue to come down and get more in line with the rest of San Mateo County. Here is the sold price that a lot of people are obviously interested in. Here, the blue color doesn't mean favoring the buyers, but it means a lower price. Red means a higher price. Just like the lower appreciation, you can see the higher prices are in those same exact areas. The middle number is the median, which is the only number of the vast majority people talk about. The number to the left is the cheapest 10% in a given area. The number to the right is the most expensive 10%. That's really valuable because it lets you sandwich the price range in each of the different areas. Here's a summary of what we went through, and basically the way you can look at this is you start at the left-hand side, the area you want, and you read across to the right and you sort of see the market conditions, or you start on the right-hand side with either your price range based on a lender's pre-qualification, or if you've worked out your own budget and you know that you can qualify, these are the payments over here. Again, the 10, median, and 90 percentile. That's assuming you're putting down 80%. It's just a rough calculation. Goes right with the price because the formulas are the same, and price and payments are going to be linear when you're assuming the same. And I'm using just the jumbo interest rate for the nation. So it's just a real ballpark because you can get better rates than that. So a lot of times, especially if you have money in a retirement account or something like that, transfer that to the institution that is lending you the money and they give you a discount. Now we're putting everybody in a blender and we're looking at the three components. The purple line is the inventory. You can see inventory really shot up this last week. I'm just guessing from a number right around maybe 70% up to 76.5%. Almost a 10% gain of inventory in 1 week is pretty significant. It corresponded with a drop in a number of offers. That caused a huge increase in the days of unsold inventory. Now, we're just now at 100% of where you'd expect the days of unsold inventory to be. So we're just now where the market typically is, but we left this faster than expected area based on DUI, and we're now in the area of just a typical fast-paced market because Silicon Valley is typically fast-paced. This thing is just a table. The big thing is the bottom line. 2023 is the 24th out of the last 25th lowest number of offers accepted. The only year that beat us out with fewer offers was 2007 with 1,700 off. We're now at 1850. We're only 10%, 9.6% above the record low for the past 25 years. And it is the slowest out of the last 10 years, and we're 98% of the lows. It's just my way of trying to hammer home that even though the market is robust in the speed of what's happening, it's not the volume you'd expect. And I know in the stock market, when you have a low volume day, people that follow it tend to dismiss what the market did. We're clearly having a long-term, low volume marketplace. The fact that the market's on fire is undermined by the fact that we simply don't have any volume to it, which is creating layoffs in the lending industry, the title and escrow industry. Here's your payment for Silicon Valley. Again, this would be for the cheapest 10 percentile home, $7,300 a month payments. For the typical home, almost $1,300. And for the most expensive 90% home, just shy of $27,000 a month. Now, most people buying that expensive home aren't doing 100% or 80% financing. Now we're going to change gears. This is Silicon Valley, all in a blender. We're looking at a monthly distribution with these dot lines. The bold line is the current week that we're talking about, or current month. And we're starting off 12 months ago, a year ago, and we're going to get down to 3 months, and then we're going to start doing weekly, 12 weeks, 11 weeks, 10 weeks. And what we're going to do, and I'll just start it, you can see it's marching down. There's the bottom. Now it's marching up. There's the peak. Now it's bouncing around, and it's really not changing, but there's a lot of bounce in here, and this is going to be interesting compared to the next metric we look at. But you can see the market's cool because we're drifting down, and the green and the purple are basically the current lines. The purple is my last complete week. I use the real estate year starting March 1st, and that way I can have one discontinuity from February 22nd to March 1st. regardless of if there's 28 or 29 days in the year based on leap year. It's a way of synchronizing everything to compare it, because real estate is very cyclical, and I'm trying to get rid of those cycles so you can really see changes. We're past the peak of the marketplace, which was back here. We've cooled off a little bit, but not immensely. I think if you compare this line right here to a year ago, which dotted blue line, which is still right through here, you can see we're doing much better than we were a year ago. And this is basically how much of price reductions the sellers are doing. And up to the left in the red box is a hot marketplace. So the closer you are to here, the hotter the marketplace is. Now we're flipping over and looking at overbid. So this is what the buyers are doing in the same concept. We're starting off exactly a year ago. We're going to go up until basically the end of the year. Then we're going to reverse and go. And you can already see that how clustered these are here on the sold price. They really haven't moved as much as the list price. So there we are going down. That's sort of the bottom. Now we're jumping up. There's sort of the peak, and we're staying there. We're not really coming off the peak significantly at all. There's some bounce up and down, but much less bounce than on the price reductions. And the green line again is right data through midnight last night. The purple line that was just before that is through Tuesday. Now we're looking at the data for Silicon Valley compared to the 10-year median. And here you're looking at active inventory. And the red line, whether it be a low number or a high number, is the hot market condition. It's the 90 percentile or the 10 percentile of that particular metric. The black line is always the median. That's where you'd expect the market to be based on the past 10 years. That's sort of the typical marketplace. And the blue line is always where you'd expect it to be on a cool marketplace. The vertical lines are your year span. So you can see there's a huge cycle. So just because inventory is growing at the beginning part of the year doesn't mean the market's slowing down. And just because it's falling at the end of the year doesn't mean the market's cooling. That's their typical pattern that it goes through every single year. The important thing to compare is where you are in relationship to the red line, the black line, and the blue line. And the purple is the data. And you can see at 2177, we're essentially matching the lowest number of listings you'd expect, which is 2143. I would not expect any lower than that. Yes, it does happen, and you can see it happen through the 2021 and 2022 hot marketplace. But, and to be that close to the red marketplace just gives you an idea how hot the marketplace is, which is why earlier I stressed the lack of volume. Now you're looking at the low volume of offers. Here, low offers is a blue. It's a cool marketplace. You can see there was a surplus in 2021, and now we have a deficit of offers. We're below where you'd expect it to be, and we've been below basically the entire year. We've been having a very unproductive year, but what is selling very quickly. It's selling over asking price. The real question is, where are the buyers and where are the sellers? Here's days of unsold inventory, and now this is where we start looking at the balance. We had a shortage of inventory, we had a shortage of offers, but the shortage balances each other out, and we're exactly right on the black line, which is exactly where you'd expect it to be. And now, because we've gone, just 4 months ago, more like 4 months ago, we were basically in the verge of a hot marketplace. And the fact that we've gone from a hot marketplace to the typical marketplace is showing you that the market's slowing down. The rate of climb of the purple line is greater than you would expect it to be, in large part because if you look at the black line, it's typically going down at this time of the year, where right now the purple line is still climbing. This is looking at the DUI compared to the typical. So what percent of normal is it? And because we just hit normal, we're right on the black line. And you can see we were faster than normal, which is a hot marketplace, for a good part of 2023, the second half of 2022, and the very early part of 2023, we were in a buyer's marketplace when you compare to market to typical. Look how rapidly the market changed, though, when we hit the change, whether you call it Valentine's Day, March 1st, April 1st, May 1st, whenever you're going to decide the market changed in your own mind, just look how rapidly it did change. Here's the time on marketplace. So this is a pretty simple indicator. It's a little bit of a lagging indicator, but look how early in the year it started to plummet down. And also go back to 2022 and look at how early it started to climb. Now, The reason I say it's a lagging indicator is it takes time to get the time on market up there, where days of unsold inventory changes instantly. And if we go back there for a second, you can see days of unsold inventory, by April 1st was already starting to climb rapidly. And you might even say it was starting to climb in, March at a time of the year when it's normally plummeting. So the fact that it's climbing at a time when it normally plummets is, an indication the market was about to change. Right now, 18 days is the long typical seller to sell. And no one can complain about that. You put your house on the marketplace and 3 weeks later, you've been in escrow for a couple of days. That's pretty quick. Normally in a typical marketplace, it's taking 4 weeks, and now we're doing it in under 3 weeks. That's the fast-paced marketplace that we're talking about. This is where you are compared to typical. You're only 2/3 of the time on the market compared to normal. You can see in 2022, we were above, and even in early 2023, we were taking longer to sell properties. Here is the ask price reductions. And now to try to get this change, this is looking at compared to normal. So you can see the change goes from 2.5% price reduction to 0. There's only a 2.5% range. In 2022, the latter half, we were doing greater than you had expected, that 2.5% level. Right now, you're at 99%. So sellers are only taking 1% price reduction. In a hot marketplace, they'd only be taking 0.6 of marketplace. And in a cool marketplace, they'd be taking 1.7% price reduction. You can see from the cool marketplace to a hot marketplace, there's only a 1% range, which again is why I'm calling it a tight metric. That explains this slide. Instead of trying to look at the average seller price reduction or the median, which would be no price reduction at all, I'm looking at only the 10% of the sellers that are taking the largest price reduction. How much of a price reduction are they doing? And comparing that to the normal. We're basically right at normal. We're at 88.5%, normal would be 89%, a hot marketplace would be 90.5%, the cool marketplace would be 85%. Again, pretty tight, but there is more movement. You can start seeing that annual cycle in real estate that is so prevalent. Here's comparing to the normal, and you can see at 104%, we're right about the number of price reductions you'd expect. This is the frequency of price reductions. How many sellers are taking a price reduction? And you can see right now we're only at 15%. Typically, you're at 18. In a slow marketplace, only 25% of the sellers take any price reduction whatsoever. And that's, an indication that they do their homework. And when they tend to take the most price reductions is when the market changes. Come back and look at this in 2022. Here's probably about the middle of February, because this is January 1st, the bold vertical line. This is April 1st. That's about midway in. This is about when Russia invaded Ukraine, and the market, because that was towards the end of February, the market started cooling. By the end of April, it was just dropping like a red balloon. And this is the frequency of ask price. This is already sellers realizing that they've been on the marketplace, buyers aren't coming in and dropping the price. So even this lags behind the actual shift in the marketplace, but it's one of the first indicators of the market shift. Here's the frequency of price reductions. And again, here's a nice crisp turn of where all of a sudden something happened. You don't know how far it's going to fall, but the market's changed. Just like here's a huge improvement. And when it first happens, you don't know if it's a temporary data fluctuation or if it's a market change. Like right here, you can see the market went up, it started to improve, then it worsened, then it started to improve. And, some of these this downturn here, the longer one, it was noticeable. This is more like a little bit of hiccup in a statistical fluctuation. That's why I spend so much effort trying to group similar properties together, because you want to minimize the statistical fluctuation to get something that really is a useful tool. Here's your average overbid. Early in 2022, you can see the way overbidding. Even now, at 106.5%, 107.5% is all you'd expect in a hot marketplace at this time of the year. Typical is 104.5. We're doing more towards a hot marketplace than typical, and even in a cool marketplace. And this is something that, is very interesting, probably unique to the Bay Area. Even in a cool marketplace, on average, the overbid is 2%. Buyers are willing to overbid even in a cool marketplace if the property is priced aggressively. This is the frequency of overbidding. So right now you have 70% of the sellers are getting over their asking price, and a hot marketplace at 73.5%, and typical is 63. Even in a cool marketplace, half the sellers, 48% of the sellers are getting more than their asking price. And that almost says it's impossible to underprice a property in the Silicon Valley area. It is very easy to overprice a property, and I believe firmly that you pay a penalty if you do that. Here is your pricing, and this is on log paper because the straight line that I drew by hand through here is showing you the expected rate of appreciation. And you can see in early 2022, which is lagging now because you need escrows to close, was way above where you'd expect it to be. In early 2023, the end of 2022, we were way below. Right now, we're basically right on that average rate of appreciation. And you can see that typically July is sort of the peak above the appreciated line. That's your cycle. Yes, there are exceptions. We got into 2020 with the pandemic, and you had a huge flat thing for a while instead of the typical run up. But then you got into 2021 and the market was on fire. And yes, the market was climbing, and it was climbing in a time frame when the market normally cools. So the market was still going. So again, a useful graph for different purposes. Here's your active listings. You can see now that we're looking at the three counties. The three counties are Santa Clara County in the blue, San Mateo County in the orange, and Alameda County in the gray. And you can see historically, Alameda County and Santa Clara County have much more inventory. Alameda County is gaining that inventory recently, not in Santa Clara County. And San Mateo County is actually having more inventory than they typically do. Again, a difference between the counties. And that's why it's so important to look at micro market areas, look at county data, look at regional data. Here's the same concept with number of. So even though the number of offers, listings in Alameda County are growing, the number of offers are not. So that's going to tend to slow down Alameda County. Santa Mateo County is down on the number of offers, but probably not as much as Santa Clara and Alameda County are down. Here's your days of unsold inventory. Santa Clara County is the fastest. That looks like it's 31.4 days. Then Alameda County is next at 46.6 days, and the slowest is San Mateo County at 50 days. That's how long it would take to sell all the existing inventory at the existing rate of sales. Here's the days on market for the long typical seller. Santa Clara County fastest at 19, Alameda County at 21, San Mateo County the slowest at 25. Price reductions, basically the reverse order here. San Mateo County is doing the most price reductions, followed surprisingly by Silicon Valley, Santa Clara County. You'd almost have expected Alameda County to be second, but Alameda County is only doing 0.9% price reduction. This looks at the ask price frequency. Again, it's a little unusual that in Alameda County, you're only having 12% of the sellers do a price reduction, and San Mateo County and Santa Clara County are tied at about 16.5%. I would have expected San Mateo County to be doing more price reductions than Santa Clara. And in fact, I'd expect Santa Clara County to be doing the least price reductions based on the other metrics. And again, that's why it's valuable to have so many different metrics. Overbid. San Mateo County is the slowest at only 3%, followed by Santa Clara at 5.5%. And Alameda County is doing the most overbidding. And again, that's a little out of line because Alameda County was roughly as fast as Santa Clara County. So for it to be doing significantly better in this category is a little surprising. Additionally, a lot of Alameda County, like Livermore, people are taking a long commute for affordability, and you wouldn't expect them to overbid a high magnitude. Here's the frequency of overbidding. San Mateo County comes in last, Santa Clara County second, and Alameda County has the most overbidding, going with 75% of the sellers getting more than their asking price. Appreciation. San Mateo County dead last at 61% appreciation since 2015. Alameda County 71%. Santa Clara County coming in with an outstanding 92% appreciation in basically 8 years. Here's the sold price. You can see Santa Mateo County is basically equal to Santa Clara. Yes, there's a $5,000 price reduction, but it's pretty hard to see. You can see historically with the vertical separation, it's San Mateo County is more expensive. We have crossed over once here, another time here, and I think one more time here. So we may cross over for the fourth time. Basically, that's related to the pandemic. Here's sold price on regular paper. Here's the payments, and the payments for the two counties are going to be the same because the price is the same. Alameda County is the cheapest at just under 10,500. Here is the actual numbers for each of the three counties and Silicon Valley combined for those that want to have actual raw numbers easily. Now we're going to be leaving Silicon Valley and we're going to start focusing on the Greater Bay Area. 5 regions, one region being Silicon Valley, another region being the cities, the North Bay, the Central Valley, and the Central Coast. And here's the numbers just to keep them grouped together so you can come back and look at whatever numbers suit your fancy. Start off at inventory. The big takeaway here is if you look at North County in the gray and Central Valley in the yellow, they've come down from a number somewhere around 4,500 listings typically to just around 2,000, 2,500. So they've had the biggest reduction in active inventory. Santa Clara County's had a big reduction as well, but from some number maybe around 2,800 to 2,200, so not nearly as much. And Central Coast has had some price reduction. San Mateo County, I would actually say, has had essentially almost no price reduction, reduction in inventory at all. It may be a tad, but nothing like any of the other 4 regions. This is looking at the number of offers. Offers are down across the board. You can see Silicon Valley has the most offers. You can see these 3 are grouped. This is just because of purely size. That's why I normally compare things to the 10-year median. Here's the days on sold of inventory. So this now does the balancing for you. You can see Silicon Valley is the fastest at 41 days of inventory. Not San Mateo, North Bay and Central Valley are next at 50, followed by the cities at 58, and the slowest one is 68, the Central Coast, which is Monterey and Santa Cruz. This is the 75th days on marketplace, 75th percentile. Central Coast slowest, followed by the North Bay, followed by the cities, followed by Central Valley, and doing the fastest is Silicon Valley. And there is a notable difference between Silicon Valley and even Central Valley, 18 to 27 days. You know, you might say it's only 10 days, it's only 9 days, Richard, it's not a big deal. It's really hard to get much below 10 days. So you're really going from 8 days to 17. So it's twice as slow is a better way of looking at it. Here's your price reductions. You can see Central Coast is doing huge amount of price reductions at 2.5%. You got 2 counties right here, or 2 regions with 0%. I think I'm looking at Central Valley and Silicon Valley doing the least, and the cities and North Bay doing about 98.3% price reductions. Frequency of price reductions, same sort of order. Silicon Valley doing the least at only 15% reductions, cities at 17, and then you have the Central Coast, Central Valley, and North Bay all at the same, around 27% of the sellers doing price reductions. Magnitudes of sale price to list price, how much are the buyers overbidding? Silicon Valley is the most at 6.5%, followed by the cities at 5.5%, then dropping down to North Bay at 1.4%, Central Valley at 5% or 0.5%. So even though Central Valley is overbidding frequently, they don't overbid very much, which keeps the magnitude down. This is frequency of overbid. Central Valley, 48% of the sellers are getting more than their asking price. Silicon Valley is at 70%. Cities is at 63%. North Bay was at 50%, and Central Coast is only 37% of the sellers are getting more than their asking price. Here's the appreciation. You can see the cities is doing the least well at only 44% appreciation. Central Valley is outshining everybody at 89% appreciation. So that's San Joaquin and Sacramento counties. Silicon Valley is second place at 80%. Then you have North Bay at 68% and the Central Coast at 60%. So the 2 standouts are the Central Valley, and then the low standout is the cities, San Francisco and Marin. Here's your sold price. You can see San Francisco and Marin was actually below Silicon Valley for a short period of time, but they've recovered. They did a little spike that shows up in the data, so it's actual real data. The DUI spiked high at the same time their price spiked low. Central Coast is down here at just $1 million basically. You go up into the North Bay, you're at 800,000. You go into the Central Valley and you're at 550,000. Here's looking at the payments. This is going to be in the same ratio as the sold price because the formula is the same for all of them. I don't change it. We've been talking about Silicon Valley real estate market in the Greater Bay Area. The green URL up here is what I call my root URL. That takes you to the YouTube base channel. If you add 2023 to the end of the root URL, you'll get to the Saturday morning 9 a.m. presentation. You're welcome to join us. If you add in the letter H for handout and then 2023 10 for 10, 14, you get today's handout. I try to get that up 15 minutes before the 9 o'clock presentation. I did make that this week. And if you're looking for any specific episode, the green URL plus the year, month, date code gets you there directly, or you can go through YouTube. And I'm Richard Calhoun, Creekside Realty. Contact information here, working with buyers or sellers in Silicon Valley since 1981. Do I have any questions? Not seeing anyone with unmuted mics. I'll call it a day. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Have a nice week. See ya. Bye.